let me tell you about a project that we've been working on for, gosh, like, I guess like 3 or 4 years now. It's open source, if you're familiar with that. I have a strong tendency to wish to ramble. So I'm trying to like pull myself back into this presentation. Talking to you this way. But yeah, Stanton, Virginia, you probably have never been there, but it's like an hour and a half of interstate over top of the mountain. We're in the Shenandoah Valley, the red basket of Virginia. That's kind of largely what goes on up there. When I went to high school there, I was one of like 3 people in my entire class that didn't belong to the Future Farmers of America. So definitely a country sort of area, like a lot of the, but we are like an interesting kind of different kind of counterculture, small town, and that's why we were able to found a makerspace there, which has been really cool. There, but like yeah, like laser cutters, every pool, it's like the coolest garage you can have, right? It's got laser cutters and woodworking shop and 3D printers and all that stuff. So that's like the other, but that's who I am. I'm here to kind of like first kind of pitch you on Swift Workflow and kind of talk about the project that we've been working on. Some really very much like trying to get this out to the whole world, but you're not the whole world. What you are is a captive audience that I can get some feedback from and find out whether this has legs or not and whether this looks interesting to you. And definitely not looking for praise or elevation or kindness. I really need to know, like, it would be beneficial and kind to me to hear, no, this is a dumb idea, I don't understand. But the idea is going to be illustrated through Funky Freddy's electric scooter company. So make your model. We are like this like imagine you're like running a software company, you're a software startup, you're trying to get Funky Freddy's off the ground. Largely you're like we're like you could kind of think of all of us in this room as the software engineering team is going to build Funky Freddy's software site, right? Somebody else is handling the rentals of these bikes and everything, but we're building the software that's gonna be. I've been building software for a really long time. And what happens is you have this great idea and you go to market with it. You know everybody wants electric scooters, you know it's going to take off. You're right on the cusp of this like emerging like industry, so it's perfect. And like what Funky Freddy's does is it doesn't sell directly to consumers, it sells to small towns like Stanton, Virginia. It says, we'll come in, we'll supply you with all the scooters, Stanton, and people can come and rent them. It's going to make your town hip and awesome. And what happens is like all of these, you start to get all of this different feedback from all these reviewers. Yes, we can tell we'd love to buy your software, but we want you to attach a camera or a glove so that we can remotely slap people and misuse this. Or, God, wish you guys would laugh. Policeman Paul, like if I, blank leaves the city limits, like I want you to text Policeman Paul so we'll go after the person, but not on Tuesdays, because Paul does not like to be communicated with on Tuesdays. These sound absurd, and they are absurd, but if you write software and you put it out there in the open market, especially if you're going after big clients, they're going to have all of these bizarre like requirements for what they want you to do, and you get trapped in that whirlpool of bizarre requirements, and you're going to sink because you can't meet all of these objectives. And your sales team will 100% sell to every single one of these people, all of the things that they are asking for. That picture off to the right, it's too tiny, you can't read. That is one of the list of requirements that currently exist for one client on our Swift Workflow application. And I really think that, and I've been telling everybody this for a long time, I think that requirement management in this way is a lot. If you have a list of 300 enhancements that you're going to make to the software application, you have no idea how those requirements interact, how they conflict with each other, how they can't possibly work simultaneously. You just have a list of junk that you're never really going to do. There's Miller's law, which my professor from years ago taught, which is like the second you are trying to hold 7 like bits of information in your mind, compare and contrast them, like how do these things fit together, and does this conflict with this? The second you get past 7 of those, you can't hold it in your head. And I don't mean like you specifically can't. No one in this room is going to get past 7 plus or minus 2. 9 things, maybe 10. You're really ingenious. You can hold 11 things in your head and not hold 800 things in your head and compare. So what happens? We do still do these lists. We still sell the software. It still has all these contractions. And then with the marketing department, the engineering department, the software department. That's great, you know, if you think back 2 slides ago, this is all of the fallout that like comes back, right? If we're going to have this like customized reporting system and notification system that they can call Jane and like text Jim, but never on Tuesdays, then we need some sort of extension system that can handle all these different things, and how do we do it? And like that starts with budgets and all kinds of stuff. And ultimately, even if you do manage to do all of the things that were asked for, your clients are going to be unhappy because they're going to get the other 8 things they didn't ask for. Some, you know, like the highest preaching is not going to want the rubber glove, right? They're not going to be interested in the breathalyzer tests. Like they care much more about all the other stuff that you were showing. Actually, some of them saw. And the point is the same point that all of us have reached at one point or another in our lives as we find to be you can let people be themselves. So this is really kind of getting to what Spiff workflow does. Like there's this render bike like function here, and that's going to make an API call, and that is going to do what the software we wrote does. It's going to handle renting and the bike. It's going to do all the background processing. It's going to make the API call out, do the cell-phone timers, reach the vehicle, lock it, make the charges, because that's what we knew how to do in this building. All other crap that all these people want is the same crap that everybody wants in all kinds of other weird ways, right? Making a call out from other application that does reference. Just asking the user to complete a survey, take a form, send an email, send lots of apps do that. Don't build it into you. Focus on what you're trying to do. So these diagrams, they're 2 different pieces. Like you got one client, like in that diagram, and another client in one. And another way to think of it is like not just like letting the client orchestrate and design it from the top down and control your, but you could have your app, you can have your clients building API endpoints that you can talk to. Just think like a web API, something that just sits out there in the web and answers questions. Imagine a client could build that part of the app. So your application runs long, controls everything that needs to happen, but when it comes time to, like in this case, actually somebody replaced this. So this is not at all the thing that I designed. But so I have to look at it for a second. But this is a decision table, like the renter's age, and depending on what the renter's age is, whether or not we're doing and what their what the breathalyzer surcharges or whatever it needs to be. But allows your client, like you could like your client, like with this municipality, can have somebody that can build a spreadsheet like this, and it could respond with the price of like how much they want to charge. And they can put really complex rules in here for how much they want to charge. They can do all kinds of strange behaviors. And you don't ever have to worry about it because Europe just says, hey, client, how much do I charge in this situation? And back the API answers with that. this is just another example, like, of things that you can do. So you can let the client decide who's responsible. So you can literally, like these diagrams where you like describe like how control, like the pipe, but then control of the situation changes over. You can if necessary to get them to complete the right thing. Um, These diagrams, these small examples that I've shown you are part of a 500-page international standard from the OMG, UML. Anybody like, if you did have the sad opportunity to work through like 2 or 3 years of college education in software engineering, like the OMG is a big deal, and they make these big, horrible, giant standards. And what we did was we took that standard and implemented it into this diagram tool that lets you draw pictures that we've outlined. And the way this relates back to Python is like we built all of this in Python, but some of the steps, like the diagrams that we've looked at so far are for the business people in your organization to be able to look at and say, yes, I understand what this does. The spreadsheets are for your business analysts to a certain degree to be able to say, look, here's the rule set for how this thing is supposed to work out. But also, like within these diagrams, is the ability to add script tasks. So at any point as this thing is moving along, you can inject your own Python program into the mix to solve a problem, punch the data, figure out the next calculation. And it's all done in a way that is, I don't think there's probably not a person in this room that hasn't sat down and tried to install Python. And it's hell. It's a bitter mess at times just to get Python working in one place. And then you want to like run this on server. Well, what version of Python is this? 3.9, because we don't run 3.9. We only run version 3.11. Is this? Did you install it with Conda? Are you like PyPy? What did you do? Right? So there's all this nightmare. So part of what this does in executing those scripts is it gives us like, one safe way to do it, like one standard practice for managing that. So you just write the script in a pass. So basically what I'm describing here with these diagrams and processes is something called a workflow system. There's lots of different types of, people use the word workflow a lot of different ways. Airflow is a great workflow system for doing data analytics. But it's a workflow system where you write the code, and then the code controls the workflow, what process goes to the next process. What Spiff workflow is very much kind of like a business workflow system. So it functions at a visual level in a way that like you can have a business meeting and decide what you want the system to do, and everybody can look at this diagram and understand what the system does. And then like layered underneath that is the code that executes as those steps happen. But the diagram itself does like control the execution. It is. Anyway, there's lots of workflows is where I was trying to get this. There's lots of different workflow systems, but they're very different because the word workflow is such a generic term. So there's a million ways to interpret it. What we are is business workflows as opposed to data analytics workflows or all other types of workflows that are out there. But so what makes Spiff workflow different and why should it be interesting? Why would you choose this from a bunch of rednecks in Stanton, Virginia, as opposed to some of the other big name workflow systems that are out there? And so here we're open source. Like lots of workflow systems out there are open source, but we're not like open source in like we have enough open source to catch your attention and get some buy-in, but then we have this other like artifice that's much larger that we just pulled you in that net so that you buy our software. Presently, we would love to build that and capture something, but presently we're 100% open source. So there's an underlying library that you can use. So if you have built a giant Python application and you just want to be able to like import these BPMN diagrams, you can totally do it. And we also have like a large overarching application that's just point and click. So there's a demo application that I'll point you to here in a minute and show you, and there's self-hosted ways to run it through Docker containers, but we got all of it was open source. And we're grounded in science, right? So that 500-page like BPMN standard that I talked about earlier, we implement that better than anyone else, certainly in training. And it is like well studied, like just like since January of this year, 2,000 academic papers have come out around the business process model implementation. It's rock solid. It is well studied. It is the standard for if you want to draw a business diagram that runs, this is what you do. And Swift Workflow ourselves, because we're part of that ecosystem, it's getting picked up by more and more research organizations over time. There's stuff that we've done, I've written for the University of Virginia, but like when I Googled the other day, like there's this other group that's like controlling like self-driving robots, self-driving like autonomous vehicles like are being controlled by Swift Workflow, the software that we're writing. It's written in Python. So like the fact that, yeah, you can draw these diagrams and they execute and they do cool stuff. You can always draw back into Python and get it to do what it is you need to do. I've done a lot of research with a lot of like low code and no code systems, and they are traps. They sell you on this grand idea that they will help you get somewhere, and they help you get there fast, right? You just blast in, like, boom, that app is up. Like, hey, I wrote this thing in like 3 minutes, and it's like a full app, and I can install it on my phone, and it does the, but like the second that you hit the limits of what that thing is going to do, you're dead. No more options, no place. There is no outer limit to this application because like its outer limits are bounded by Python. Like the second you can't do it here, you can write Python. The second you can't write Python to do it in like this restricted framework, right? Like you like add a task and that's got a Python script in it. The second that doesn't work for you, we have service tasks where you call out to an entirely separate application that you could write from the ground up in a completely different version of Python and call out to another application. Hell, you can write it in Java, something else. Some frequent questions that have tended to come up as we previews. Yes, so we have one to play with. Yes, there's swiftdemo.org you can go to and try it out right now. I'll show you that in a second. Can you install locally? Yes, it's Dockerized. And that's as far through the slide deck as I got because I realized that yesterday that I had to come down and present, but I thought it was like September 1st. So that's the slide. But I can come out and crash there. So I'm but if you so anybody got it right now, but if you don't have a comment, I can make a using a password for you. We can have LinkedIn or super stuff. But you can come and click on that, and it'll log in. So it just identifies was it's your Google, like they're going to continue some super stuff. But this is Swift as a web application. I can also, if anybody is interested, show you Swift Workflow as it stands as a standalone library. It just directly deployed to your code base. If you go to Swift, you can go into the examples folder, and there's all kinds of examples of how to use Swift Workflow. And these all run, but I can click it instead of essentially here. So this is that, like, So basically, like each one of the workflows, these processes are defined by like one of these BPMN. This particular one is just going to take a survey. It's going to give you some. It's going to give you an introduction, like a manual task, which is going to display some content for you. These user tasks are forms, so it'll ask you some questions. That's a script task, so that's where we inject some Python. If you remember the price calculations, those were the things. And then for those like business users out there who need to figure out, if you want to be able to look at a high level, what does the software do? What does it do for me? How did you customize it for my locale? Like you can do exactly what I'm doing here in front of them, the VP event diagram. Yes. But like you all know what this does, right? You can tell like you cannot look like I'm sort of thinking, like it's gonna branch out here. Oh wait, this is the score is 0. This is the score is 3. This is like the default. There's some like because it's a very like it's 500 pages. We have a lot of information. But this is like a signal event, and basically it's saying like while you're sitting on this point, if something comes in and signals like it's break, I'm going to go all the way back to the introduction and start over. So this is like a simple example. We've got BPMN diagrams that I could pull that are 1,000 times more complicated. But the idea is that like a high level, you can lay out a problem in a way that everyone can understand and appreciate what is going on. It directly guides the software. So the next time you were sitting there talking to that CEO in a board meeting, trying to explain to him why the software can't do the new thing that they want it to do, because it does these other things that are directly contradictory to that. You can step them through that in a high-level diagram and say, this is wrong. This is the cognitive disconnect that we've got. The sales team is headed this direction. They've got this idea. You've got this other engineering department set out on this idea. Like you're going to have to come together. You can come together around a diagram that shows them. And this, like, just to get the point across and make sure it's clear. This is what is like the thing I'm about to show you is defined entirely within this or within this diagram. So like this introduction here, that's just marked down, right? It's just a way to describe it. So the first thing it's going to do is like show you this information. The next thing it's going to do is display this form. So it's gonna put this at the top, which is the markdown. Then it's got this web form. You can go look at that web form, see like how to build it and what it's going to do. So here's how you ask those questions. This form is designed with something called React JSON form suite, and I hate it form. It's itchy and weird, and I'm unhappy with it. But I can tell you that like this JSON structure that defines what that form is the most powerful form building definition language I've ever seen. And so there's nothing that you can't build here with these forms if you want to. You just have to do it in JSON. So that's the forms. If we want to write a script, we can look at what that is. It's really simple. It's just a little bit of Python. It's going to check to see what the questions are and increment the score if you got them. Decision points are super simple. They're just more Python. The condition statement is written in Python, so this is literally the score is equal to 3. Decision tables, those look. So really, it's just going to check like 3 inputs, like this push up, then these names will make sense here. It's going to check what your values are, and tell you whether you got perfect score, terrible score, or gives you a nice message that. So again, everything you need to do this is defined. So if we come back. And execute this diagram, give us those instructions from the first step. So true or false, hope for the best, always check numbers for protection. That's true. That's true. That's right. True or false, Chuck Norris doesn't push up, he's pushing down. That's right. That's true. That's true. Chuck Norris was giving plays with banned. So we can submit that, it's going to run that through the decision table. Determine that we got a program in the Chuck Norris system. And like that, sort of like, one of the ways that you can trigger like an external event is with an button here. So this try again will actually cause, rather than like let this process finish out and then we can try it again and then we'll take something back to kind of repeat. Seems trivial, but the fact that we can return to a previous point means that we're not a finite state machine. Which is what many workflow systems, certainly some of the most popular Python flow systems, are finite state machines, meaning they can't back. You have a finite set of states that you can be in. You must progress through those states, and then you are done. BPMN is a more advanced, sort of more complex interpretation of rules that allows us to repeat and cycle and circle back, which can be very useful when it turns out you discovered such a thing. I was prepared to talk about. And it's like, so you've seen like those things. We can get really advanced with VPNs. I think you believe me. What is it like to integrate with your existing applications? So if you wanted to take like, this is not like you're looking at this UI. It's not. It's not really intended to become the new face of your your customer applications. It's great for building internal tools when you have a captive audience and you don't care how it feels. And it's also okay probably for your municipalities, right? They are concerned with how it looks in whatever your big clients are, whatever your customizers. They, like as an internal tool to allow them to configure and change it and make it do whatever it wants to, they're not going to care about how it looks, they're going to care about the where I was going with this is if you go back to this essentially to the just began. One of the things not on here is like something called a service text. And actually, really, what we want us to do is look at this locally so that we can check this out. I have a typo in which is it's not even possible.
Yeah, but it's an M.
It's just that. If I go to the process. That's funny. I'm just gonna like, this is like you started and do something. I'm at this service task. And if I look over here, like we've got a service task, and it's gonna say, well, what service do you want? Let me drop this down. And I played around with it. So this is Funky Freddy's API that we can now use. So what this means is like at any point in this application you stop and like you can call it to existing, like we have like Many of these workflow systems come with connectors. If you've ever played around with Airflow, it's got 500 connectors. So you can go and grab data from like Slack and you can stick it in a database and stuff like that. So we're working on a set of connectors. But what's more fascinating is to build your own connectors. And how hard is it to like build a connector and everything you have to do? So I thought it would work better with Automaton. So these two are just automatically showing up. They're showing up because I have a small little connector proxy. All this thing does, it literally really has no code in it at all. The connector proxy just imports other and so in this Python, it like imports this SwiftWorkflow proxy, which causes the data to Python, and then any other connectors that you want. And these connectors, there's no, it will grab any code from anywhere you want to and it'll import it in. And these chunks of code, so I made a funky Freddy connector. The whole reason this exists is to decouple everything. So you have this connector proxy that decouples everything completely. So that you can then import these other files. So the connector function Freddy is up here. And it is its own separate independent application. It can have any dependencies that it wants, it can function any way that it wants. You can write this from scratch. You would like zero requirements other than you have to have like a command directory with classes in it that have an init and an execute. And from there, you can connect anything you want to in this SwiftWorkflow application. You can build these things out from scratch. You can like input 800 million bizarre directories that they can run, and Django, you know, I don't know what. But that's it. Like literally, like you can add another. All we have to do is drop another command in here, re-import it into the connector proxy, and bring that command is available to SwiftWorkflow, and you can start doing this. So yeah, that's the presentation stuff. But it'd be very, yeah, spend the rest of this talking about Python, learning, doing stuff in Python.
That's it.
Yeah,
Here's something. We're good friends, so.
yeah.
He's at one, but. No, that's pretty cool. It might be. Snacky. It's
That,
yeah, this would. This is lots of things. There's so many people get overwhelmed. Where do we get into it? So, well, now just sit down and write the program.
yeah.
23. Thank you.
There's so many.
There's too many ways to do everything. And my brain gets hung up. What's the best way? And so I'm editing my brain way faster than I can do it at the keyboard. And it just gets hung up in this. Well, maybe this is better, maybe this is better, maybe this is better. And I never actually get anything written. Whereas this lets you just sit down and draw a map first. And then you can just attach things and work with the map. I really like that. Like, that's impressive. It dumbs it down. It gets stuck in the grass.
Yeah, or better yet, maybe thumbs it down for business people that they have to talk to explain, like, why is this thing?
You know, the get the code, you can click on the task, and be like, this is the back end of this task, like, there's stuff here. But for the, typical management that doesn't, code and stuff, you might feel like, that's the part where it does that thing.
There was, on the way down here, I listened to podcasts, like real quick on the podcast. genuine. But they were just really, kill a programmer for words. It's like the game, like everyone's supposed to like, like in 4 words, say something, and just, no. And the way you say, hey, it's like, a big chunk. It's just a.
So there's something really interesting about the word like anthropomorphism. Not what it is. The bug gives us this idea. The developer was working, it got dark, and crumbs around, so something. Big deal. I've taken the problem defense because you either have code that works or you have code with defects, and you need to know what the defects are and treat them like defects, and not treat it like you have something that's almost going except it has some bugs. So you have defective, and the sooner you can remove those defects, the better. But yeah, I think the bugs is like very. It softens, it protects for program ego, and it softens the fact like you didn't get it. But all we gotta do is like report it and create a mythology. So, but I think that like definitely there's something that like bugs doesn't quite land. I'll also say to you're like really stuck on command and get started, building out an interface will be fun. Meetup, test driven development is like really fun because you get to think of the ideal interface. You have this magical class that works exactly how you want. So what is the method that returns the data? You don't have to think about what the data structure is. What is the method that returns? You don't think about. You don't have to choose between the implementation details right now. But like when you're making that thing that you're going to eventually use, what are the interfaces that are reporting and how do you use those when you want to in the text? And then like now you at least then you have like your outline, you have your bullet points, you can take it, but like it gives you really unstuck, and you show it really gets like a bunch of this that you may not be considered. How that's like funny stuff.
Pulling it back is, they're really, the teaching things. Like the tester, one of the things that they was how to do it in the library. And that, and like tester development is one of the best. If you using your phone. In that whole, it's pretty real. I've had a lot of thoughts in here. It's really, but I would say like 9 times out of 10, it is not programming error. Misunderstanding.
Oh yeah, it's always a gift. So if you have the way that I put it is, it's like if you have requirements and you have the interface, then identify the interface and then this is the requirement. Whoever closest to the requirement on identify the interface system. If neither is closest, then you have the requirements. Right? Like so, it's like whoever closest is there, and if like you can't really figure out who, oh they sorted it this way or they did it this way, they grouped by this, they grouped that. Like, no, that actually is fuzzy on the requirement. There could definitely be a user or a use case that's going, and so therefore, the product use case was clear on defining.
There's a lot of things that are clear and they're changing.
Oh, definitely.
There, I think it's easy to hear the word feedback and think maybe it's working, the truth is somewhere either. First, the something that doesn't. One of the core things that are computing is like the idea of yourself. Letting yourself fail, but doing it in a way that just. And I think that's also true in your career. You're doing it, okay, stay out of late grade, and then
change it and adjust and it's like we're all learning. And we're only by learning is making mistakes and being
Yeah. Wait, here.
First thing you write something, it's actually more complicated and you go to task on it and it just works. So,
That's
not really hard to find.
yeah.
After you have to touch it, something. Don't touch it, that has to be back to the reality. That is. That. I.
Well, please, when I get into tonight, I'll post, this. Everything, all the links that I. So you can play with it. It really is just files that are more. And like, the companies that are in the space, they usually have, something, 50 or 75. Influence. At least you saw it from the fact. But I do think it, like, in places where it really matters, it is rock bottom. There's just frustrating that we've not been through. But I can.
I mean, I need a bunch of AOS that just randomly deletes my wireless drivers every couple months. So,
Yeah.
well, we don't have like massive errors like that.
And, like, there's a community that does signature. Which I think it breaks everything, right? Java's terrible managed stuff. Parts, use that. But they also don't have, like, we got them saying, you can go start running diagrams, you can look at the. That's not possible. With like a quick setting. But you like, well, no, first you write the code Java, and you draw diagrams. So it's. We.
Let's see, C++, so my usually feels a lot like fun. At least level, not the data science and Python.
Yes, Hannah's gets pretty serious. But it thinks like data in things, right? It doesn't think like software engineer things. So I like that. I like, you can sit down with any, from, all day, and you can get that right in the whole high app, and like, and then I don't want to do it. They're not mired in the depths of like programming principles that won't be usable to that until they're bringing 7,000 application, they can do something, so like it functions right.
Well, for the most part, I did a career day at a kid's school, she's in first grade, but was a K-5 school, right? And since they're using Scratch, especially the fifth, fourth, and third graders, like since they're using Scratch, or they already like robots, or they showing them Python with like slightly verbose variable names and if it's like obvious method calls. Like I ran into the program, which is basically like so, the system with APS computers. And like the fourth and fifth graders like brought innocent, just innocent, like like, oh, that's cool, this program, it's a kid, pretty much it. Right, but if you write Python, it can read as close to English language as your coworker. So great. So, yeah, it's impressive one.
It's an error.
Yeah,
That's an error.
Yeah.
Instead of just staying at home. What is it?
I started doing some things where we're in. Trying to figure out where you print out print statements like this is the element seeing and Python made it really easy to just like inspect like the stack and where you want to fall, and so you can just be like, oh, like anytime you're a method, if you are a method on this type of object, like just tell me if you're trying to do it. And so now I'll like instantly repeating for every method in the third time. Like Python just gives you that. You have to think about it. Is this gonna like make it a movie? It's like you don't have to do it. You just like ask Python, look in the stack and tell me, tell me where, you know, and yeah. Very convenient for debugging. I mean, debugging, especially in that page, yeah. It's good.
I think that's a strength of what you guys built, even if it does have some stuff that goes wrong. For somebody that popping up and tasks, waiting for a second here, they're probably gonna know where, well, maybe there's a solution to the whole question. Yeah, I understand. Because, I mean, the more people you have using it at the pro level, the more it's gonna start getting people helping.
That's definitely true.
I'm curious, who's your target donor?
That's, we just hired somebody to kind of help us mine it. That's been an investment in there for a while. I definitely tailored this to this audience, right? I can certainly like, I am a software engineer. That is really all, right? Like I get that. Like this requirements business that I went through here, that's one of the true pain 30 years of doing this. But I do think it's got a very wide application. And yeah, I think really what I want to do is target organizations that where they empower the accountants to write code and instead it doesn't. But I mean, there's some real challenges there. I think there's a ton. There's like a dark dark web or something that large organizations are actively battling because they don't want everybody writing software. Yeah.
So that was okay. I don't think because like they hire a software developer for standard and I might hire an accountant. Pay the IRS, complete documents, cash, and then I will champion it. People who have to gain in. So other some of your, it's like, particularly if you tell them to explicable. So presenting to somebody, hey, I have a problem. Here's where the fun is. Can you come to some sort of arrangement you thoughts? You want to get someone to those people and have fun. Take it.
Where you're talking, does, directly applies to the representative the years. They didn't necessarily. So, but they directly became on top road. It would, occasionally be like, oh, what are and be careful who has hours and who gets to say hours to me. That's what we talked about this earlier in last week, just write until the errors stop. So maybe 50, 60 lines. I think it's was it 500 to 600 lines, just kept writing. The errors kept popping, just keep writing, stop errors. And that's what you're trying. That's and teams. This really, it's an internal, external. It's his job to shield the team from those people. So him sitting down with the customers and saying, "Yeah, I have to give you what this is policy. We have to know before to go, 5,000-10,000 hours. Teams do this exactly what you want. So I want to sit down and map it out. When someone clicks this button, this is supposed to happen. Your end goal is X. How do you want to get to X? What do you want it to look like? So this was like the roadway to map out user experience. But as we start breaking things down, it passes. Right?
It helps. I've been, so not just the software, it is software. So I've had software. So I software engineers are the worst creature. They go off and do nothing but like that, work hours on it.
Job theory.
Clear, talk to you. So,
And
road code, not for
and then too, right? You don't want a software engineer making accounting decisions. You don't want a software engineer making business decisions. You want them writing code and starting technical issues. So something that, but really, like where we're trying to do is like some sort of collaboration. Makes the collaboration better. Makes it part of the software development make decisions it should be. Yeah, also like gives you that opportunity. One diagram and kind of put together and like script and business logic against like API calls and make much more efficient it's code and process. Well, you've got to wait.
Where I work, we have a large collection of data and data engineers and back-end API engineers and people who can do things efficiently and a lot of data. And so then we end up with a lot of, and so then we have our product team who kind of tries to figure out how to use those things together in the finance that we pick, right? But there's always new aggregates or sometimes even systems to make the vision real and succinct to the developer. And it seems like with a tool like yours, and some of the PMs that we have, they can use, they can run local documents, they can use, posting requests. And so it seems like for some types of planning, they start being flat, then you might have some places where by using a tool like this, can more succinctly describe the gaps on the, hey, we don't have any data. See, in this response, I don't get a data that like has this key that I would really love, and then I could be able go to the next part of this thing. But if that key is never there, like having it be on that side where it's kind of like it's like a demonstrative, node graph of if potentially external, but definitely internal APIs that may or may not exist that like can help someone communicate what they need just as much as you described it, where it's like it can help someone actually get these things done. It can also help them, I could totally have this done, but I don't have these places here done, and people can help me out. Like a Zapier, but like if I didn't have something, or if this and that, but if any of these things, any of these internal things, make sense, then we would be able to turn them together. But yeah, so it runs on premises. You can run this, right? So it could have maybe hitting. Because the company, and I like the interface quite a bit. That's what. I mostly Node and
The front end is React.
okay. Does it so something mentioned something online task or written tasks? Is there any roll up or analysis for admin fee of like stats on here's how long things take, or here's where there's a lot of writing?
I think it's our backbone. Very want to get to is some of the related times diagrams. So look at different things where like this is how it's let's say 50% are stuck in this step. But in terms of like one of the things that does very is the original design was for Sierra Connect, which is the approval process for medical research studies at the University of Virginia. It takes a whole year to get through the approval process for that. So these processes just sit and hang for that long.
It's very long poll. So then, we're
A series of damages,
version,
yeah,
some version.
the diagrams are stored in there. So we changed, yeah, it's changed.
Off the servers when they're different work.
One of the other things that I'm back on, not to, it's like stabilization, but one of the companies stats, and they find a big chunk of their that theory. Maybe like the biggest, they're very all out. And they want to use these diagrams to control, to convert them into something called an app. But to your this distributed systems is like one of the parts of their future.
It's just autonomous.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of started especially with the school, sort of contracts, so.
They will ask us questions like, they'll say like, well, here's the situation. If we're all arrested and they shut our company down, we wanted to be able to instantly respawn somewhere else with a new stack. And continue to run and operate exactly like it was.
Yeah, that part is hard to learn, because we found that. One was pretty.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
This was great. This is really great. I'll hang out. I'm gonna go get it here. But I'll hang out as long as it's top.
Yeah.
I have one more question. What would you say to someone looking at like the Power Suite, Microsoft Power apps, with more point and click. I don't know, just maybe like more UI rich coding features for someone who's not familiar with coding. And then, you have Stiff Workflow that definitely, I think, does more, but, maybe isn't as accessible.
That is really great. That's really great. I don't know. I looked at a bunch of, I have not looked at Microsoft. Yeah. I like the thing that we're hanging at in large parts. And its usability, and the idea that like, as you peel back the layers, like what can you do? Like when you hit the end of the road, this abstraction, this principle, these assumptions, what can you do? That, yeah, like it's not, in its imperfections, it offers some way out and some new attack.
I was thinking too, like at my last role, we were using some of the Microsoft, I think it's Power BI, which really, like when I saw what you were doing, I'm like, if I would have made the connection and it spun that up, I wonder like how much more easier it would have been, because like exactly what you're saying, like my teammates would create, something and then they would make it quickly and then they'd get to the point where they needed to be more powerful, more to connect, whatever. Yeah.
It is then.
Yeah.
Like it was like it's like that too good looking date.
Well, thank you. I wanted to at least pause the conversation to kind of like wrap up with like some of the, the business stuff we do, but of course we can hang out. And I forgot to mention earlier, Dakota was kind enough to give us some beer. So if you want beer, there's some great beer.
There's always some in the fridge here, but I didn't thought.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's very. But there are a couple things I want to touch on. First off, our next meeting is in 2 weeks, right back here. The 15th, we're doing a coding night. We usually do an ensemble coding session, which has been very fun. And that's the plan right now. So depending on how many people show up, it might try to do something different, but that's essentially the plan going forward as well.
Yeah, to work on it, or just bring grow.
Right. So we usually have like a kata or an exercise to do, but we also reserve the right, like if you come with a problem that you don't know what to do, right, it's a cooler problem. It eventually like yeah, pretty much.
That's cool, that sounds really neat, I haven't been on those yet.
Yeah, yeah, to be here, it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks. 7 o'clock? Yeah. Cool. Same. Additionally, we are sponsored by JetBrains. And I noticed that you were using Python. Tell me, what do you like about Python? I know you put me in spot.
Yeah, they can do that.
Yeah.
It is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, not to say anything against other things, I mean, obviously, yeah, great. VS Code is great for them. Brian loves VS Code. I love PyCharm. The guy I started Pirate Day with, like I was leading he and JetBrains offered to sponsor us, and they gave us like I think it gave us 2 free licenses to give out. He like, oh, I don't need it. I pay for it every year because it's so powerful. All right, I'm gonna take it and see what it's like. And now convert. So all I'm saying is I have a license to give away. So if anybody's interested, raise your hand.
Wait, Chris, this isn't the one you gave me.
It's the same thing that,
Oh,
yeah, anybody else?
I'm using my. That's what I gave somebody else.
Yeah. All right, well, okay, you
No. I picked up one at one point. Looking for
Yeah.
This isn't 5 years, so
That's true. I guess I should have said it's a JetBrains license.
I think if it's added for And then. Yeah.
I think that's everything I covered. So we are, how long, we have like 40, 15 minutes? All right, so hang out, enjoy, there's some beer here, there's afterwards, there's a brewery across the street.
That's around.
Exactly. But yeah, thanks for coming.
Vincent?
Thank you.
Good.